Parent plight. Is it okay to track your kids? Can't wait to get the opinion on this one. More and more parents evidently turning to tracking apps and devices to get the answer. Here's the part I find very interesting. 25% of parents admit to tracking their kids. Only 15% of kids think they're being tracked. So at least 10% are getting, trust but verify treatment, I guess. Join us to talk about it, Adam Russo, child and family therapist, the author of Unwritten Rules, Real Strategies to Parent Your Child into a Successful Adult. Where do you lie on spying on your kids, Adam?
Well, I think the word spying is kind of holds the meat of the whole question, right? I mean, spying is kind of the lazy way to parent. I mean, there's a difference between spying and teaching. And if we're as a parent saying, we want to know where our kids are, we want to know what they're up to online, which I think is very fair for parents to know, I think it's incumbent on a parent to actually be active in teaching them that rather than spying on them. Spying implies that there has to be some counterintelligence or counter moves from kids, and then it becomes a chess match. And I think that kind of defeats the whole purpose of parenting.
Isn't it a little, though, trust but verify? In other words, you teach your kids, but you want to make sure that the lesson got taught and learned.
Well, absolutely. But that's the thing, right? That's teaching, right? And there's a big difference between parents kind of playing the big brother role of where are they and watching everything online, and then kind of pouncing when something goes wrong, and and consequencing and kind of and not actually teaching what the problem is. I think parents should know the trust but verify where kids are, what they're doing, what they're posting online, but also creating an opportunity to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
Not for kids to always feel like they have to be protective or defensive.
Sounds like you're describing helicopter parenting, which we talk about quite frequently on this program. In other words, if you're using it to spy on them and then you're going to intervene on their behalf without teaching them anything, that's sort of the quintessential helicopter parent.
Well, exactly, and then kids don't learn anything. And again, I look at it as our goal as a parent is to raise kids that are healthy, independent, successful adults. And so when parents are just kind of spying, ready to pounce, or creating these lanes that are so narrow, kids can't function, outside of the boundaries on. We're not teaching them the skills to grow up and be independent, and that's where a lot of these problems fall on parents, not the kids, ultimately.
Yeah, ultimately, though, it means spending an awful lot of time trying to interact with their kid who won't take their nose out of the phone anyway.
Well, but again, that goes back to the parent issue. I mean, at what point are parents setting the limits to have them put the phone down? I mean, there's plenty of great apps out there that remove icons from phones after a certain time amount has elapsed. I mean, if parents are just kind of sitting there throwing their hands up in the air and saying, "Oh, I don't know what to do," well, then as a parent, we're being lazy. It's a technological age. We have to, as parents, catch up to it, whether we're comfortable or not. So these responsibilities fall on parents, and it's a lot harder to be a parent now than it used to be. But ignorance and that's not how I grew up aren't really good excuses, because we certainly wouldn't tolerate those excuses from our kids if they had an excuse like that for something that they did and shouldn't have done.
Adam Russo, I know you deal with families all the time. How often do you see the conflict between moms and dads as far as being on the same page about how to punish, how to discipline, how to teach, all those different issues?
All the time. I mean, and I think, because parents have to get aligned with what their philosophy is. I think you have, it kind of goes in this philosophical place of one parent wants to be more friends, one wants to set limits. Okay, well, that's typically kind of how it goes. But then it really goes to, again, what is the end goal? What are we trying to do to set out for our kids? Do we want them to be independent as they get older? Well, then if we do, the one who wants to be friendly probably has to set a little bit more boundaries. And they have to be a little bit more active in setting limits, holding kids accountable, and being a parent, not a friend. And sometimes, and at the same time, the one who wants to set all the limits has to back off just a hair and listen a little bit more before they jump to setting consequences. So there's a philosophy of alignment and how parents need to be able to communicate, talk to each other, and then also understand what the end goal is if, 10, 15 years out, whatever it is, depending on how old the kid is.
You make perfectly good sense.
Doesn't he, though?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I hope parents are listening to you, especially about the part of getting on the same page, because I see that as a huge issue.
Well, it is. I mean, and parents mean well. I mean, that's the other thing. I think, when I talk to a lot of families, many of them really are trying their best. I mean, they want their kids, they want the best for their kids. But, I do believe in the adage of, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, I think parents fall into that trap all the time. They try to do all these things for their kids that, that make their lives better and more improved. But actually, it takes away from the skills that they need when they get older So as parents, they really believe they're trying to do the right thing. But in the end, it just is counterproductive.
All right, Adam, good to hear from you. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it. Child and family therapist, the author of Unwritten Rules, Real Strategies to Parent Your Child into a Successful Adult. That's Adam Russo joining us here on News Radio 740 KTRH.